keep showing up. So, well, I'll go ahead and get us started here. I don't want to take up all night. I just want to say welcome and thank you all thanks for joining us. This is a very special thing that we're doing. I'm delighted that we're getting some support from our friends at Profoto and Fujifilm, who are hosting these things and promoting them and setting them out there. There's no hidden agendas here. I'm not trying to sell you something. This is not a commercial. This is about a couple of people that just want to talk photography, and let's talk about we're talking to some of the top people in the industry about what they're doing, how they're doing it, what's working, what's not working, what's inspiring, what's not inspiring, what's funny and what's not. And we just want to have a conversation. And it's funny, Audrey and I we've known who each other is for a while. Yeah. And we kind of crossed paths a little bit and never got to see each other or even meet until a few years ago in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And it was like we knew each other forever. So I was thrilled when this came about. I told the folks I wanted her to be one of my very first people. So this is the second in the series, and I'm delighted that she's with us tonight. So Miss Audrey Woulard, welcome live and direct from Chicago. So everybody's giving you big applause right now. It's funny. When I look at your work if I were to introduce you, I mean, I'll obviously start talking about your teen work and the work you do with young girls, especially that I've seen, which is so beautiful and so interestingly different than anything I've ever seen. And I've been doing this now 41 years. I've never seen anybody do what you do, and I don't know how that sort of came about, but we'll get into that in a bit. You have really come a long way in a pretty short period of time, and the work is stunning. You've been speaking all over the world. I know about Australia and the Netherlands and London, of course, and we've both been side by side at WPPI and imaging, and you've been doing a lot of stuff. So my question, and the one thing that I've never asked, is what was the first sort of photographic experience that you had, either, I don't know, behind the camera or in front of the camera? What was it about photography that was first in your mind, maybe?
Oh gosh. And I always tell this story. When I became a stay-at-home mother, I quit my corporate job, and my husband brought this little digital cheap camera. It was Fuji. Brought it home, and he said, maybe this will keep you busy. And I was like, okay. Literally is how that started. And it had in there a little disc, Adobe Photo Deluxe. And
sure.
I used to take pictures, upload them, and literally that's how it started. I was not into photography before that at all.
Wow. So did you just keep doing that for a while, and was it a natural transition years later up to becoming professional, or?
I literally kept doing it like that became just like a hobby. I went full, I'm so, I guess what's the word I want to say, focused, probably to a fault. And once it's something that I like, I just kind of keep going. And so once I had that camera, I remember my dad brought me another camera, like for the holidays or Christmas. And then he bought another one. And as I started taking more pictures of my kids, I was in this like little mom group, and I took pictures of one of the people in the moms group who is now also a professional photographer.
Oh, boy.
And literally it just kind of blew up from there. And the reason that it kind of transitioned into a business is because, and I'm very business minded, I couldn't understand for myself being away from my children and not making money. If I quit my job to be a stay-at-home mother, if I was going to leave to go take pictures, why was I just going to go do it, for fun?
Sure.
That's
sure.
literally the reason. And it just snowballed from there.
And off it goes. It's funny how that happens. And fairly soon people realize you've got a good eye, and they ask you to photograph their kids, and pretty soon it's a snowball.
That's exactly how that happened.
And so that is how it happens for so many photographers. I was one of the weird ones. I never had photography as a hobby at all. My first picture I ever took was for a client.
Wow.
It's true. The first camera I ever had was a Hasselblad.
Oh,
And
gosh.
my first picture I ever took, it's ridiculous. And the first picture I ever shot on was a paying client.
Wow.
It's really silly. So somewhere in here, I guess because of your kids and growing up with your kids and moms groups and stuff, you had a natural transition toward this fabulous children work that you do.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's where that came from.
Yep, came from my kids. I mean, my journey with portrait work grew with my family, and that's literally how it happened. So when I had little kids, I'm photographing little kids, and as my kids grew and my clients grew, that I'm now teenagers and seniors. That's 100% how it happened.
Wow. It's funny on your site. There's one of the pages on your website where you've got it's like a 9-up, or maybe it's a 12-up checkerboard of faces. And I didn't realize, and I've seen that page, but I never rolled over it until today. And I rolled over it, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I love the way it's 9-up because it goes up to age 9. Yeah. The way you did that with the rollover with the ages.
Yeah,
is so clever, and it's like I want to tell everybody to steal this idea, but I can't. What a great idea it was, though. What a great way to segment those age groups.
Yeah,
and they're all so different, and you did such an interesting job with each one of them. But you've gone for this market, and your kids have I guess we'll dig into that right away. But your series. The KATC, Kids and the City. The way that you've done that stuff, I was thinking of it as more like Audrey in traffic. because there's a feeling of such a city feeling around you and around them. And then there's this frozen, stunningly lit, beautiful moment right in the middle of this madness that's going on around you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know how you came up with that concept.
But I don't either. Well,
it had to be something. It's something so unique. Nobody's doing this. Not like that.
I wish I can say that it was cleverly planned. It was not. I was doing my own thing. When did that start? I want to say around 2013. Around that time frame. And I was kind of avoiding Instagram. I didn't want to do Instagram at all. It was just one more social media, that I had to do. I was doing really good on Facebook. I'm like, all right, I got to do Instagram. So I made a personal Instagram page. Well, I had a lot of 10, 11, 12-year-olds who were on Instagram. Now, I have all boys, and my boys didn't care about Instagram. So I had no idea the number of young teenagers that were on that platform. So had my personal Instagram page, and the little, some of the girls that I photographed, they, said, "Hey, Miss Audrey, can you post some of our pictures?" So I was like, okay, sure. I didn't think anything of it. Well, all of their friends came in droves to my personal page. But my personal page was kind of just like me. I would post shoes, a glass of wine, it just was so inappropriate. So I was actually watching a television show, Sex and the City, and I'm just, editing, watching the TV show. And I'm like, you know what? Kids and the City, ding, 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 made the Instagram page. And once I made the Instagram page, my new clients started calling the studio asking for Kids in the City. And I'm like, no, that's just an Instagram page. My business name is Audrey Woulard Photography. Well, it just snowballed so quickly that I had to create a DBA and just change everything because I was losing business because they thought they were getting the wrong number. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
I know.
Well, it became a new brand for you.
Yeah, it literally did. But I didn't do it. The people who I just listened to the demand because I was photographing kids on top of my rooftop, and then teenagers tend to get boring. I mean, get bored. So they're like, all right, we don't want to do that anymore. So then that kind of moved outside and into streets. And then I'm so into lighting that I didn't like the area around my studio. So I just moved downtown, and the rest is history. That's where that came from.
You know, speaking of that, I know that as a lot of people, their early work is mostly natural light. Yep. And I know that there was a time where you did mostly natural light. And when you know, there's a I guess there's a general gradation of your work from starting to where you are, that somewhere along that path line, that timeline, you started really paying closer attention to light. And your lighting, even when you were adding light, it still looked pretty natural. And but it cleaned up faces and gave you shutter speed options, and it did things for you that without the light you probably couldn't have done. But boy, what a difference there was. Now, how did that all come about? Was it self-taught? Was it out of necessity, or?
No, it's self-taught. I actually started using strobes. Like, that's my little son. Well, he's a grown man now, but I started off, I knew how to use strobes. So that was what I started natural light, moved into strobes. Then I decided I don't want to do this anymore because it was just too much work in my mind. So I went all natural light, and I did that for a good 13 years. And no, more than that, am I thinking. And then I ended up at, I was invited by Profoto to go to this Alaska trip. Mm-hmm. And they were introducing the B10. Right. And we were set up in all of these different stations. And this is a true story. Like, all these different stations, and every station I went to, I said to myself, well, I can just do this with natural light. I could not wrap my brain around what a strobe would do for me. I couldn't do it. I don't know why. It was not for lack of trying, but the very, very last day, I go into a station, it was all full sun, right? Now, I can shoot in full sun without a strobe, but it's limiting. But where the station was, I couldn't do it. And so I was talking to one of the guys, and I was just kind of sitting back, and he came to me and says, "Oh, switch this on your camera. You get your same exact look and use high-speed sync." I'm like, "What?" And that's what switched my brain. I don't know why that little thing switched, where I was like, okay, I can get exactly the look that I want, but I can do it anywhere, wherever. Yeah. And
isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how that when it clicks, it really does click.
It clicked.
And it took me a long time to get that shutter speed, aperture, and flash combination situation figured out in my brain. Yep. It just didn't make sense for so long. And when it finally did, it was just like, yeah, I got it. Right. Now I understand. Well, it's funny. When I saw you a few months ago in Texas, you had a very full class of a lot of very excited students following you around like the Pied Piper for a week around Dallas, Texas. And I kept hearing how great this class was. I don't know I'm not sure how you organized your class or what you did. Clearly, it takes a lot of energy to do that kind of stuff and to stay up yourself for that week. But what is it? Because you clearly you get your energy from that, some of your energy from that. What is it about that makes you want to teach others? Because I know, and we'll talk more about this a bit too, but I know that you do like to talk to other pros, and you do like to share experiences and share successes and things that work for you.
I find, when you're teaching photography, and you know this, there's so many different ways to teach something. There's so many different ways to talk about a subject, light, what have you, but it will all get to the same point, right? And I think one of the things that keeps me going is how I felt, when I was kind of coming up, and how things were explained to me, that I feel that I have to do it with others. Like, some people understand things very, from a complex standpoint, or just very, complex. That's how they take in information. Then you have other people who they get intimidated by it, but they don't want to say it. So I like to give people, you know, the empowerment that you can say, ask, do whatever, and there's never a stupid question when
Right.
you're with me. Like, never. The playing field is completely even. Whatever you want to say it. Because if you don't, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And that's what
Yeah.
keeps me going.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's that's we don't know what they don't know.
right.
We only know what we have to say, and
Mm-hmm.
if they don't ask the question, we can't possibly answer it.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that's a tough one. Do you think that when you're teaching, especially the live teaching, not so much video work, but your live teaching, do you think there is where's the mix between maybe photo technique versus, I don't know, business or marketing or branding or whatever? Is it heavy technique more so than the rest, you think, or?
Well, nowadays I do more technique because that's where I like talking light now. Like you said, that I'm now more into it. But before that, I was kind of 50-50 technique, and it was like natural light stuff and then business. But now I'm heavy technique now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You seem obviously very comfortable there. The commercials that you shot, the launch vehicles that you gave for the new A10s was stellar. Was so nicely done. And in fact, I stole a couple of ideas from just the launch videos that you did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's true. We've got 4 of the A10s that we use. In studio, it's almost everything's at B10s only. I mean, I'm a B10 lover all the way from ProPhoto, but on location, the A10s do a remarkable job.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're so small and so lightweight, we're in, we're out, and we're gone.
Yep.
You know, you can get it done in seconds.
Yeah.
But it's always been fun. Now since we talked about teaching a little bit, I got to ask a couple more questions about that, because I'm really intrigued by a couple of things. I'm intrigued about your VP packaging, your VP programs.
Oh.
I'm interested in your mood presets for pros. I mean, we're in a room here with photographers, or they wouldn't be in this room. So right. They are mostly pros, I would imagine. So I'm curious about that. How did the VP teaching series come about? Because you've got a lot of content on your site.
So where did that? That was not planned. Nothing I ever do was planned. Yeah. So I, just again, me fine tuning my work, and I always feel like I'm fine tuning it. Like, it's like I feel like I'm never done. I always want to add something, to do something different. And I have a Facebook group, which is it's mm-hmm. now called AW Teaches. It wasn't at first.
Right.
So had a Facebook group, and I was posting, pictures, encouraging people to post their own pictures. And they're
right.
like, "How did you do it? How did you do that?" And so I'm like, you know what? I'll make a video. And I would make a video, and then made another video. And then my husband, because he builds websites, he's like, "You really need to put this up." And he built a whole platform. And every time I did a picture or something, people would ask the question, and that's and the rest is history.
Wow.
Like, yeah, even with, like you mentioned, the mood presets for Lightroom, I don't even use Lightroom. I use Photoshop, but I know how to use Lightroom because I told you I'm focused to a fault. So I recreated my own looks within Lightroom and made those. That's what I did. Yeah.
Wow. Back to us meeting in Vegas, when we did finally meet, we were instant. I mean, we were instant friends. Yes. I felt that anyway.
I think so too.
and I have to believe, because of this larger than life personality of yours, I believe you're probably the same way with your clients.
Yes.
I have to think that your clients probably refer you more than anything. And they probably are the people that come back to you over and over and over.
They are. And I tell anybody that anything I've ever done in my career, my return client base is my number one greatest achievement. Like, there is a story they did on Nikon website about a month ago, where they did kind of before and after. So like when they were babies and now they're like teenagers. So they did that. I mean, that was a little tough putting up some of your old work against your new work and then putting it on a camera site. But you know, I'm like,
it's true.
That was tough. But you know, I think if us, you know, as pros are able to kind of, you know, show your stuff, then people will be more inclined to share their work as well. So I took one for the team.
Well, I think, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, our work lives on.
Yeah.
And some of it is bad. Some of mine was bad. I shot an early job for Taco Bell because of a really ridiculous thing that happened with a small fire in Dallas 30 years ago. But I got this job and I had 24 hours to produce it. And it was a national job, you know, so it was a big deal to me. I look back at that work and I won't show it to anybody. It was awful. It was really awful. I got paid well. The client was happy. We fulfilled the needs, but man, please don't ever show that work. Ever. We've all had that. I have a really goofy question for you.
Sure.
Over the years, you know, teaching workshops and being in front of a lot of photographers, I grew up as a musician. I was a drummer. I've been a drummer all my life, professional working drummer for one period of time.
Yeah.
And I started asking the question in seminars and workshops, especially, how many of you have a background in music? And it's remarkable the number of hands that go up. And so my question to you is, did you have any background in music whatsoever? Or is there have you ever related your style or your photography to any genre of music, anything like that? Or am I just out of left field for you?
Okay, so that's actually a really cool question. So to have a background in music, yes. Grew up playing the piano. And from there, I'm trying to figure out where this kind of fit in here. But I played the clarinet throughout school. I was first chair. So I played clarinet all the way through sophomore year until I wanted to be cool and be a cheerleader. But then around like the 12-year-old range, I wanted to be Prince. And so my parents bought me an electric guitar and I took guitar lessons. So I have a really good background in music.
It's funny. It's funny how the correlation is.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
I had a friend one time that called me. She was living in New England, and she called and said, "I want to come down for the weekend. Let's go practice with our wide angle lenses." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. I'm a pro. I've been doing this a while. I'm speaking and teaching all over the place. I don't practice. She said, "Well, you're not very good with your wide angle lenses. You ought to practice." And I was like shocked for a second. I went, "What?" She said, "Every musician I know practices their scales. Mm-hmm. I don't care how many years they've been playing or what instrument they're playing. They practice and they practice and they practice. And we never practice. We would be, it would behoove us to get out and do a little work." And I thought, what a concept. Yeah. And then I started thinking about the whole transition of lighting, hard cutting edge light with hard rock and roll music, and soft transitions to easy listening elevator music. And there's just this, your head explodes after a while. But there is, I just didn't know if there was any of that in your background or in your soul somewhere. It sounds like there is. Yeah. No, that is very interesting. Isn't it funny? Yeah. Yeah. You'll find that, and everybody that's listening, you'll find this in conversations more and more if somebody will bring up the topic. It'll surprise you how many photographers have a background, and it's not just because it's artistic. Yeah, it's true, it is artistic, but it's for whatever reason it's kind of more than that, I think. Yeah, so. Now I'm gonna have to look into that. Like I said, I played the clarinet forever, and like I said, I was really good at it. So yeah. And you'd probably be great at photographing musicians. You may be onto something, because I will take pictures at concerts just from, and I like it because of the lighting. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's interesting. I now live in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and we are surrounded by musicians here. and some of them are really, really good musicians. And there's a lot of big name, celebrity type musicians that are from here. But we photograph them all the time. My wife and I both have done album covers, numerous album covers, just in this little town, this little community. So,
oh wow, that's cool.
And it's fun stepping into that with a mindset of music. Anyway, there's just a connection there that I thought was interesting.
That was a good one.
Okay, so the next thing I want to know about is this is really going to come weird. I want to know your absolute best photo experience you've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Whether there was money involved or it was a big job, or I don't care. I just want to know your best experience.
Okay.
And I also want to know your worst experience.
Oh man, it's so hard to pick. Like,
it is.
It's hard because what would I say? My best one. My best one. Yeah. So I'll tell you this is my most memorable, was way early in my career. And I have got a brand new camera, and I broke it like the day after I got it.
Oh.
And it broke on the aperture ring, where you can change aperture, and it was stuck on f1.6. I didn't know it until I got to a photo session for the White Sox player Jim Tomei, and that was one of the first kind of celebrities that I photographed. It was real early on in my career, and I'm like, I didn't have a backup, that was the only camera, and I'm like, what are you going to do? Do you want to postpone it? And I just decided to say, you know what, I'm doing it, and I photographed this family of 4 at 1.6, and it now became a signature. That's where that came from.
I've heard a few other people talk about those very fortunate mistakes based on a piece of equipment failing.
Yeah. And now I think it's like superstition. I cannot not, unless it's a lens that doesn't allow me to dial to 1.6. I'm shooting at 1.6. I don't care how many people are in the shot.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that feel the same way, that they really do take off and find ways. Clay Blackmore, my gosh, he was telling about one time accidentally leaving his shutter on 1 second when he ran from outside to inside, photograph a bride coming down the stairs. And there's flash freezes her, and then there's just one full second of motion everywhere. And he was like, "Oh, I lost that one." And his mentor said, "Don't throw that out. Show that to the client." And the client flipped over it. So you never know. Those happy mistakes.
Yep.
Yep. And there's a guy, John Paul Caponegro, one time said, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, it might not be a mistake at all. It just might be you, and it might be who you are, and it might be who your style becomes. Mm-hmm. So go that direction. Follow it and see where it goes.
Yeah.
So tell me about the worst. What's the worst thing that happened to you on a shoot?
I honestly don't
Nothing
have
so much?
one. I mean, I think the only thing that I ever had that was, I guess, quote unquote bad is just being overworked. Booking too many back to back. So once I realized what my limit was, which is, I'm getting old now. So now I'm at like 1, maybe 2, but I used to do like 4 or 5 a day, and I was just drained. So when I was doing that was
killing you.
Yeah, because I actually went to a creative rut at that point.
Yeah.
So that's the only one I can think of.
Yeah, that does happen. And obviously we're all independent. You're an independent business person, mm-hmm. and you're terrified when you limit the work coming in, because there are, it's feast and famine. Yep. You'll run a $20,000 month and a $4,000 month and a $60 month. And you're like, you know. And so you really don't want to turn the work down, except, sometimes you have to.
Yeah, and for your mental health.
you gotta recharge a little.
Yep.
Everybody does. My wife tore a rotator cuff because she's just overworked. And she's, the way she carries gear in the woods, and,
I've had that. I've had I had like my wrist, my elbow, something happened with a nerve where it went all the way down to my hand, and I couldn't even hold the camera because I was leaning on things with my elbow, and I like totally pinched the nerve, just working too much.
Yeah.
So,
That's a tough one. That's challenging.
yep.
So let's talk just a little bit about gear, and then
Sure.
we'll move off to another couple of things, and then we won't keep everybody too late. What do you think is the one most important piece of photo gear you have, and what is the most important piece of lighting gear that you have in your bag?
So my 85 millimeter 1.4 lens.
Okay.
And again, I'm such a creature of habit. I still have this. I mean, I've got a ton of them. I have like 6, but I have one that I have been using since my now 20-year-old son was in 7th grade. And I have never taken it to be serviced because I just feel like it's my lucky piece of glass.
It's working, and it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want, I've got, like I said, I've got an extra one, but like that one stays, that I pull that one out. So that lens specifically. And then light, I'm a Profoto B10. I cannot leave without it now. Yeah. Like now I cannot. I mean, obviously I can shoot natural lighting, but I don't want to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that I
do.
have to have.
We're not here to try to talk you into buying a piece of gear tonight. I will say that I won't go to work without a B10.
Yep. I can't.
I can't either.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that, and they are expensive. We know they're expensive. Of course they are. But it's the one thing I can always rely on. They've never failed to produce, ever. Yep.
No,
they always come through.
And the funny, like you said, and not, again, like I hear you saying not like a sales thing, but just, when you're going into it and you're learning, I'm all about simplifying, in terms like a number 1 to 10, that do you know what I mean? In terms of power up, power down, that's perfect for me. If I start seeing too many numbers and I check out, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just use the sun.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, and it's good that there's competing products at a lesser cost. That's good. Everybody should be able to step into this and find their way into entry level photography as working towards becoming an up and coming pro. That's okay. But at some point, there's a point where it's got to fire every time you pull the trigger. Yeah. The airport gorillas can't break it. Which, those guys, I remember the TV commercial, and they were all in gorilla suits throwing luggage out of a plane. And I thought, those are the guys that carry my gear sometimes.
Yeah.
But this stuff always works. So that's
exactly. And in some of the situations that I'm photographing in, because it's like you said, Audrey in the street, but like there's certain things I have to have in place. Like I don't just shoot willy-nilly. Like if cars are in a certain area, I won't even take the shot. So when they're in the spot that I want them in, the distance away from me, I take the shot, but the light has to go off. If it doesn't go off, I've lost a shot. Now I've got to wait for the next cycle to come around, and it will prolong the shots that I'm going for. So I time them.
How long do you think your standard, Audrey Dodge in traffic sort of shoot lasts?
Okay, so believe it or not, I do have police that are with me. They're like either behind. Sometimes they depending on how many people are out there. Sometimes the car is like strategically behind the person. You just don't see them. It's just my composition kind of hides it, or they're behind me. But I would say if especially with the girls, if they're not changing clothes 50 times or talking a lot, it can last, I would say, maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Do you, in Chicago and Naperville and some of the areas that I know that you work in, are those, they require permits and you are absolutely dialed in with the city and you have permission to do what you're doing?
I'm only literally in one spot. All of my pictures, I just kind of move around and strategically, change my angles, but it's one little slab of a street, one area, like that's it. I don't venture off too many places. I'm serious. It's like, that's my area, my permitted area, and that's it.
Boy, it works so well. It's ridiculous how well it works.
Yeah, it's a small spot. It's small.
What do you think? What would you think would be the one thing that most clients would say about you working with you, or about your work? What do most clients have to say?
That they can't envision what I'm going for. I get that a lot. Yeah, if I take them someplace, they're like, they trust it, but they have like no idea.
They can't see it.
They cannot see it, and that's actually, I prefer that. I don't want them to understand, why do I have you on the side of this car? You know, I mean, it can be like a little bitty like sliver of a spot. But yeah, that's what they say the most. So they're always like excited to see what it's going to look like, because they have no idea what I'm going for. And
there's probably a lot of, how did you do that after the fact?
Yeah, especially like if it's a client and it's a new one, right? If it's a return client, they don't care. But if it's a new client and I'm taking them into a spot that just really looks disgusting, then I would show them the back of the camera, and then they're like, "Oh my God," and then they're quiet after that.
Clients can't envision a 1.4 85. No. They've got 50 millimeter eyeballs that are sharp. They don't get it.
They do not get it. Yep.
Wow. I don't know. I'm not sure if I have any more big monster questions left. I do want to know what do you think's next on your horizon, and do you have? I know also, and I do want to promote for you to help. I mean, I had such a great run on Creative Live, and I know you've recently shot a whole series on Creative Live, and I couldn't be more proud and happy for you, because this is a big deal, and it's a bigger deal than maybe you recognize. But people from all over the world will now know who you are and will be downloading those videos of yours, and it's amazing when this happens.
Yeah, that I still have some anxiety on that one. Because it's different because just because of COVID, we are creating the content. Yeah. So it's like, all right. But then I'm like, you know, when I thought about it before, I've always said, if I ever do Creative Live, I wanted it on my own terms. Like, I wanted it to be where I wanted it to be. So, okay, it's like, now, you know, you got that. So it's just apprehensive. I just little anxiety.
Well, it's funny. You'll be at an airport somewhere in the world, and somebody will walk up and introduce themselves and thank you for watching. It's a weird thing. It's a really weird thing when it happens, because it's like, how do you know me? You know. So what's next for you? What's new? What are you gonna do? What's your next project? What are you gonna do next?
So Creative Live is coming up this month. Mm-hmm. Have that, and then just still shooting, and then I had some workshops last year that we had to reschedule, so we're doing those this year. So that starts in August, and and then I'm busy. You jump in the holiday season, because it gets cold here, so we jump in the holiday season around September-ish is when we have to start that whole thing, and then it gets busy. So
you've got a little window of spring-like weather.
Yes, a little window. So like July, I'll have a little bit of that. I usually kind of book less during that month, so that and then it's hot here as well. So I take a little bit of time off there, and then August it's full throttle. Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled you took some time with me. This is great.
Oh, I'm honored that you would even ask me. So.
We are, it's funny how people weave in and out of your lives, and all of us. We watch photographers all the time. It's funny how I forget so many people's names, and I never forget an image. And I think a lot of people that I know are like that. I was with a friend in Florida last week, and I just made the comment. He was talking about this mentor of his, named Tom McDonald from Arkansas. And I said, I remember a picture of Tom's from the 80s, and it was a slimline vertical of a little girl dancer wearing a pink leotard, and it was a warm tone. And he said, it was on a stucco wall, wasn't it? And I said, yeah. And he said, I know the picture. And I'm like, how do we do that? I don't even, we don't remember what we had for lunch yesterday, but we remember these pictures. And
Yep.
you've got such a handful of those pictures. I remember. I'll always remember them. They're great
Aw,
pictures,
thank you.
and it's just really exciting. And I love watching what you're doing, and I can just say keep doing it. Tell everybody where they can find you, where they can see your work, and let's give a little plug for you here.
So Instagram, Kids and the City, on Instagram, and then on Facebook, I have a Facebook group, and that's AW Teaches, and AW Teaches website, so that's awteaches.com, and that's where I'm at. I'm fairly active on my socials, where
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a treat for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If anybody's looking for me, I'm easy to find. It's my educational site has changed names in the last year. It's now greatphotography.com, period. That's it. It's just a straight across greatphotography.com. And we've recently secured the YouTube channel for greatphotography.com. So you'll be seeing a lot more from me, a lot of content coming up in the next several months. We'll be loading a lot of content. So Audrey, thank you for doing this. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you hopefully in Vegas or Washington, D.C. or somewhere soon, I hope.
Yes, and then we have to be able to sit down and chat, because we're always working.
We always pass each other and say, hey, and we're gone. Yes, we'll do that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. This was great. Like I said, you've got so much, great talent lined up. So it's just an honor, to be a part of it.
I think we just wanted to have some conversations. Let's not try to over technique anything here. We don't need to show you. Let's just talk about this. Let's just talk for a minute. So this has been great. So thanks to ProPhoto and for Fujifilm putting this together for us. And thanks to everybody for joining us. I think we're about right on time. We always want to try to keep these under an hour. So this has been really good for me. And I thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or you need me for anything? It's real simple. Tony@TonyCorbell.com, and send me some suggestions if you've got some people you'd like to see us interview in the future. But we do have a good lineup of talent coming up. Our next one is going to be the fabulous Dixie Dixon. She will be with us the first Tuesday in July, and we'll take it from there. But she will be another fabulous conversation to have. And I'm a big fan of her work as well. So, Audrey, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to catching up to everybody soon. And these are being recorded, and ProPhoto will get them posted online, not right away, but over the next week or two probably. And so you'll be able to find them there, and there'll be links that go out and get sent out to everybody. So again, thank you, and we'll let everybody have the rest of their night.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye.